Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Chimera Elite, and today we're looking at the mages of the Lion. But before I get into that, there is a double Ducat weekend starting Friday, going all the way till Monday morning. However, it's in a different time zone than a lot of you guys, so I'm gonna post the times in the description for the different time zones, just so it's a little easier to figure out. Hope to see you guys there. Let's get on into this in depth. The Tier 1 Enchanter of the Lion comes in at 38 AP and 4 movement. He is actually a strength of 2 in magic power, so he's an initiate, and he has a max mana reserve of 5, and he gets 2 mana points back every turn. His stats are pretty much shit, and they don't really matter a whole lot. All that really matters is his dodge, toughness, and will, which are 7, 6, and 14 respectively. He has 2 abilities, Scourge of the Impure and Strength of Virtue, and he has 2 attributes, Bravery and Mastery of the Arcana. Bravery we've talked about in literally every video because every human in the Lion army has Bravery. 20% bonus to any fear effect. And again, doesn't really matter because if he is in melee combat, you are doing something wrong. And it's just a bad idea. Mastery of the Arcana grants a plus 20% bonus to all spell incantation rolls, meaning when it would be harder for anyone else to cast the same spells that he's casting, because he gets a bonus to actually completing it. Now his 2 abilities are Scourge of the Impure and, again, Strength of Virtue. Now, Scourge of the Impure does exactly what it sounds like. It grants Scourge to whatever unit that's in contact with you. It's a really easy spell to cast, and you get Scourge Undead, Construct, and Demons. We obviously know all the undead units, but we have no idea what these demons are going to be like, or these constructs are going to be like, so I'm really, really excited whenever they eventually get around to putting those units out. Strength of Virtue, on the other hand, is insanely powerful. At least in comparison to Scourge of the Impure. Because Strength of Virtue is just a straight damage buff. Strength of Virtue, it costs 4. It's a bit of an investment, and has a difficulty of 16, so it's quite hard to actually cast. But it has a range of 2, and this is where things get interesting. The target ally gains a damage bonus equal to half of its will. So for most soldiers, like the swordsman, he has a will of 8, so he gets an extra 4 damage. If the Enchanter of the Lion casts this on someone like the Chimera gets 8 more damage because the Chimera has 16 will. It gets half of its will converted into straight damage. Now, fortunately, it's only for 1 turn, otherwise, this unit would be kind of insane. Either way, though, it's a fantastic ability that needs to be used very, very sparingly, considering that unless you want to spend AP on a Sparkling, which can give 2 mana a turn to hurt itself for 12 damage, it's a big investment. You have to wait 2 turns if the only mana that you're getting is from the Enchanter himself. Otherwise, I consider the Enchanter a decent unit, but right now I'm still trying to figure out exactly what type of playstyle I personally want for my Lion army, but I feel like I could pretty easily find him a place. The Tier 2 Pyromancer of the Lion is a bit of a jump from the Tier 1. While the Tier 1 was only a somewhat paltry 38 AP, the Tier 2 is 61. Quite a bit of a jump. But he has the same movement, and he is the same power level, Initiate. Mana reserve of 5, and 2 mana points per turn. His stats are not much changed. His dodge is a bit worse, his toughness is worse, but his will is improved. 5, 5, and 15, respectively. Now, obviously, that he's different than the Tier 1, or this would be pointless. He has 2 abilities and 2 attributes, same as the last guy, but instead of Mastery of the Arcana, he has Recovery, which means instead of having 2 mana points given back to him every turn, he gets 3. Now, before, I thought this was actually overpowered, but I messed around a little bit, and found that it's not. It's not an extra every turn. It's essentially just a +1. Before I thought it was +1 every turn. So like turn 1 you get 3, turn 2 you get 4, and so on. Fortunately, that was not the case, because otherwise the Tier 3 would be just stupid. But we'll get to him. The Pyromancer's 2 abilities are Seal of Deraen and Chastisement of Light. The Seal costs 2. It's really easy to cast, as a difficulty of 8 and a range of 3. Now, this is also kind of an interesting spell, because, again, it's something that you cast on your ally, and your ally kind of goes someplace and does something with it. The Seal of Delaran is essentially like tossing a pack of explosive onto your unit, and literally just sending him off and doing something. Now, what it does specifically is the targeted ally gains the mark of the Seal of Delaran. At the end of its next activation, the unit that has the seal on it, the seal explodes, and keep in mind, all fighters, allies, and enemies in contact with the bearer suffer an injury force of 10. The bearer, however, is not affected, so just keep that in mind whenever you toss this on anyone. His other ability is called Chastisement of Light. It's essentially a fireball. It's a bit harder to cast with a difficulty of 13, has a range of 4, and you can cast it on a hexagon. Not on a unit. You can cast this wherever you want. Exactly. And only enemies within 3 hexagons of that hex that you targeted suffer an injury of force 6. So against undead armies with a lot of weak units, or hell, other lion players, and they have a lot of really squishy units, use this and you can literally just throw explosions at them. But I think the Tier 2 is actually also really nice. Like, all of the spellcasters of the Lion have a pretty decent place to fill. The Tier 3 Archmage of War is another big jump in AP cost. He costs 79 AP, and he's actually quite a bit slower than the Tier 1 and Tier 2. He can only move 3 hexes a turn, but he has a magic power of 3, making him a master. He has a maximum mana reserve of 9, and he gets 3 mana points a turn. It seems pretty good, but that's, kind of looking at it, it's more, I get 1 spell a turn, and I wait 2 turns, and I get another spell, which is kind of how all these guys work. Everything's a trade-off. In terms of stats, his dodge is lower, his parry is lower, his toughness is lower. Again, all that really matters is his will, because that's his damage and his chance to actually be able to cast the spell correctly. Now, he has actually 3 attributes and the usual 2 spells or abilities. Now he obviously has bravery. He also has recovery, meaning he actually gets 4 mana a turn, which is it's pretty good. But even more importantly, he has focus. Damage inflicted by the spells of this unit is increased by 3. So his primal attack of light deals an injury of force 10. Primal attack of light costs 3, is really easy to cast, and has a range of 4. And it's literally just tossing like a ball of light at someone and just smacking them with it. It's a decent spell. What really turns this guy into a danger is Celestial Scourge. 6 cost, difficulty of 14, range of 6 hexes, which is it's huge. And the enemy unit is going to take a damage roll or force roll of 21 plus focus. So he's really taking a damage roll of 24, which is huge. On top of vulnerable. So you're just getting compoundedly screwed. And if the Archmage of War has the... I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. Has the Familiar of Sparks, which I'll get to eventually. The Familiar has something called Devotion. Devotion hits the Familiar for a damage roll of 6 and gives their target 2 mana. So if you have one Familiar on the on the Archmage, you can literally cast Celestial Scourge every single game. Every single turn that the Archmage is alive, you can cast Celestial Scourge. It's absolutely insane. And with the right army behind you, you can become you can become a wrecking ball. It's amazing, which is what you can do with the amount of firepower that you've got at your fingertips. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Next time, we're going to be looking at the lions of the Lion Army. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.